Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the Board of Aldermen's meeting for Monday, July 15th. First order of business is minutes of the previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Any debate? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We are outside the rail. Is there anyone to address the board on matters not on the agenda? Yes, sir. If you would just state your name and address for the record, please, at the podium.
Hi, Glenn Reed from Vermont Center for Independent Living here in Rutland, the branch office.
Welcome.
Thanks.
How can we help you?
I'm just here to remind board members of an event next week. I sent out an invitation.
Yes.
Friday, the 26th of July is the 29th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And every year we do a few events in recognition of that. Every other year we do an accessibility tour of downtown Rutland, and I've invited all city officials to participate in that. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. on the 24th, Wednesday the 24th, starting and ending at our office at 60 Center Street, or the old Brock building, which is what everybody knows it is, or the beauty salon in the front now. The walk is about 45 minutes or so. We have 6 manual wheelchairs. We ask participants if they're willing to actually use a manual wheelchair and not be pushed for a portion of the course, just so they can get a sense of what it's like to use a assistive device such as a wheelchair in downtown Rutland. And we pick a course that highlights some challenges of getting around downtown Rutland, but also pointing out some of the positive effects and advances that have been made as a result of the ADA. And I think 3 Board of Aldermen members have already reserved or RSVP'd, and I encourage any others to join us, and there'll be refreshments at the end. And that's it.
Great. Are there any questions? Good. Thank you very much. We appreciate the invitation. Is there anyone else outside the rail to address the board on matters that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we're moving on to communications from the mayor. Mayor Lair.
Yes, thank you. Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Just had a couple of quick things. You'll note on your agenda that there's going to be a request for the board to set the tax rate tonight, if everyone feels comfortable with the information that's provided for you. The treasurer's going to have a proposal that she wants to put forward for you, and I think there'll be a couple of other possible scenarios that we might want to talk about after that, but we'll start with that and go from there. But I think the news is, no matter how we end up, is good news for the city taxpayers for the upcoming year. And the other issue I wanted to just mention very quickly was I wanted to thank the members of the board who had the opportunity to show up Saturday morning for the grand opening of Ocean State Job Lot. They put on a nice show. There was a lot of representatives from the company there. They gave out a pallet of food and held a little competition afterwards, which was called the Discount Dash for Charity. And 3 people participated, including yours truly. And although I did not finish first, everyone ended up with a gift card from Ocean State. And as a runner-up prize, we received a $250 gift card for the charity of my choice. And I have chosen the Dodge House over on Crescent Street, which is a residence for veterans, and we're going to try to get that gift card to them in the next day or 2. So just wanted to mention that that event, and that we appreciate all the attention that they've given to the community in a very short period of time. So I think they're very welcomed here. So that's all I've got.
Any questions for the mayor?
Yes, one question.
Yeah, Alderman
I
Gillen.
think Audrey should have done the shopping.
And she would have finished
She would
first.
have finished first.
Thank you for that.
All right, we have a number of additions to the agenda that came in late. So they are, I'm just going to read them, and if someone could then just move them, please. Tasso's outside consumption for July 19th and 26th. the saloon outside consumption for the 19th and 26th of July, a special events permit, Art in the Park, both August and October event, and Tasso's sidewalk use with the outside consumption permit, and last but not least, a quick executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Any debate on the motion to add to the agenda? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We are on to reports and letters from department heads and officials. We have Commissioner Wennberg, Fathom meter upgrade project. This is for information only.
Second.
We have a motion to receive and file that's been seconded. Is there any debate on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is Commissioner Wennberg, buried conduit application for Comcast. Alderman Gillum.
Move to approve with the standard 13 conditions.
We'll need to suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules, I'm sorry.
Second.
All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Gillum.
Move to approve with the standard 13 conditions.
Second.
And we need to authorize the chair to sign, I believe.
Authorize.
We're just going to double check with the clerk. It just says Board of Aldermen.
I think there's only one signature on it.
Here. It's this page here.
I think it's just to have the board approve that.
Okay, so the clerk feels it's just an authorization. Any debate on the motion to approve? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next up, we have Brennan Duffy, Director request referral for Housing Trust Initiative. Brennan is not here this evening, but Elizabeth Coulis is here this evening if we do have any questions. So they're looking, proposal to the purchase and renovation of Immaculate Heart of Mary School on Lincoln Avenue to support permanent supportive housing, and proposal for refinancing and renovation of the Tuttle Block on Center Street. The request is to refer to Community and Economic Development. Alderman Gillum.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Elizabeth, would you like to address the board at all? You're more than welcome to. I just need your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, I'm Elizabeth Coulis. I'm a resident of Rutland Town, and I'm the executive director of the Housing Trust of Rutland County. And I just want to tell you to thank you for referring this to committee. I'm looking forward to making a presentation at the committee and answering all kinds of questions that you all have and any members of the community might have. But we're really excited about the possibility of doing something positive and exciting at the IHM school for a population greatly in need in our community, and to making some minor modifications to the Tuttle Block, which is currently our office home and the home of Wonder Feet Kids Museum, and several apartments as well. So I'm really excited that I've been working with Mayor Allaire on this and working with members of Project Vision, and it seems like this has a lot of community support behind it. I'm sure there will be questions, and I'm looking forward to tackling the hard ones with the community at large and with you all. But I just wanted to give that brief introduction.
Great, thank you. And the chair is Alderman Humphrey, who is out of town to the 22nd, and then we'll inform her of the referral to committee, and she'll be in contact.
And I should just clarify that part of this is specifically because we're interested in approaching you at your, I think, your August 5th meeting,
Okay.
To formally submit a pre-application, or what I used to call a letter of intent, to the state for the possibility of a community development block grant, particularly for the IHM school.
Okay.
The grant's due in September, but it will need your blessing. We will have to have a public hearing as part of all this process, which would happen probably here later in August.
Okay, all right, good, thank you, that's
Yep.
helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so a motion to refer, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is Treasurer Markowski. And we have a preliminary treasury report for June 30th, 2019. We also have adjustments for year-end and tax rate information. Good evening, Mary.
Good evening. The June 19 reports, and I'm just going to stress, preliminary, still subject to audit. We're still working on adjustments. At this point, we really are working to make the adjustments necessary so we can come up, really project that unassigned fund balance for purposes of calculating the tax rate. So I apologize that I did not do a lot of checking at other funds that I put in the packet because I was really focusing on the general fund, but all of the information in the packet covers all of the funds, special revenue, proprietary, some of the private trusts, so everything's in the packet. So if you have questions, there's an awful lot of information, but please always feel free to stop in if you have questions. So I'll just briefly go over the highlights of the report, the June 30 year end. The pooled cash account was 4.2 million. Of that, 2.9 million was general fund, and the balance is the proprietary fund holdings in the pooled cash. In looking at the reports, the tax delinquencies, I just want to note, are increased over last year. And I was thinking, what was different last year where we didn't hit those? Didn't we do a good job with our delinquencies? And I think we did, but we had some challenges last year. We had some personnel changes in our office, and we had Fathom that really kind of pulled us away from the normal collection effort. So we already have some planned tax sales, so you'll see that coming through, and really hit on those delinquent balances. Then in the balance sheets for the report that you have, the unassigned fund balance is about 1.9 million, a little bit lower. We've been tracking it. We had it at 9%, but it's been held steady this year, I feel. Around that 9, a little less. So just to point that out. The pension fund that we update annually, I just want to point out that the actuarial report is posted online if anybody has questions on, the valuation. So that's there. And then I provided, getting into income and expense for the general fund, I provided a summary for the end of the year at how we did. So I'll just kind of highlight the departments that were over budget. Many of them were under budget, and that really helped us at the end of the year. The legislative section, because we had a number of approved tax abatements, and those go in that legislative line. The executive line was a little bit over budget. Government buildings was over. We had a lot of expenses with city-owned properties that were in there. And then in debt service and payouts, we just don't budget for those post-employee payouts, and we had quite a $309,000 this year, so that was an extra expense. DPW traffic and streetlights, we had actually a prior period expense there, so that pulled that way over budget as well. And the other one that wasn't a surprise was really White's Park. Their real first year with the pool, and so that was over budget. So just to highlight that. Overall, the good news was that the general fund showed a surplus prior to some adjustments of $315,000 revenues over expenses. Because we did have some good things in revenues, our non-tax revenue, we had some items that were up, so that helped there too. So just a reminder that we have pension board meeting tomorrow with the actuary at 6 o'clock at Longfellow School. And then I just wanted to note that I scheduled with NEMRIC to generate tax bills on July 23rd. We plan to mail them on the 29th, so people should have them around the 31st or the 1st of August. And I forwarded to the board some new rules that the state had sent down on, so the tax bills are going to look different this year, a little bit of separation there on the municipal side and the education side. So it will look different. If there are questions, I thought that would be handy for you to be aware of that before that comes up.
Okay, so
Okay.
if I may, Treasurer Markowski, we do have to take some action for you on the fund balance and transfers. You have
Yes,
3
yep.
motions here. Do you have that before you, Alderman Ettore?
Move to suspend the rules, take the issues up tonight.
Second.
All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Ettore.
Move to relinquish $250,000 from the assigned fund balance? Is that what it is, Mayor?
Yeah, that we had set aside last year for taxpayer relief.
That was
Yep.
designated for the tax rate for FY '19.
We have a second.
Second.
Any debate on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Ettore.
Move to transfer $60,000 from the general fund to the bridge fund?
Second.
Any debate on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And Alderman Ettore.
And I'm gonna have to help me on this one. Move to transfer the $7,944 from the police department general fund special events revenue to the police department equipment replacement fund.
Second.
Any debate on that motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then we do have a opportunity this evening to set the tax rate. Would you prefer that we bump it to the end so we can have a little more time for discussion? Okay. So Mary, if you don't mind, we'll work through the rest
Sure.
of the agenda and then we'll come back to the tax rate before the executive session.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. So we're on to reports of standing committees. Are there any select committees, representatives? All right, we're on to petitions, letters, and miscellaneous communications. We have Jennifer Scott, College of St. Joseph President, request for Zamias funds. And you have some information in your packet. Jennifer, would you like to join us? And then we'll get a motion on the floor.
Hey, thank you. Good evening. So as I'm sure you're aware, College of St. Joseph has suspended the portion of its operations that has to do with degree granting. And what we've been doing is been very busy at work at looking at a path forward for College of St. Joseph that reimagines education and workforce development for a 21st century Vermont economy. So in line with that, we have partnered with Vermont Works and Vermont Innovation Commons on this vision, and we are at work on a feasibility study. In the application, you see some of the initiatives that have to do with workforce development, with what the college brings in terms of education and training, what Vermont Innovation Commons is interested in on the campus with incubator space, business accelerator, bringing Vermont businesses or bringing businesses to Vermont that can launch, grow, and stay, as well as a mixed-use, mixed community in our current location. So the feasibility study is really about determining what it would be like to implement, what is the feasibility of implementing these initiatives at College of St. Joseph. And we're looking at conducting that over about 120 days. It began in early July, and we expect that we would be able to wrap that up sometime in October. The expectation would be, as a result of the feasibility study, we would have a business plan that looked at all aspects of implementing such initiatives. But it begins with a look at community and stakeholder engagement, doing a needs assessment, looking at the facilities, determining what kind of renovations may be necessary on campus, and really speaking with the community on, is this something that the community would want here in the space where College of St. Joseph currently is. So we have a proposed budget, and Vermont Works has committed to half that budget. So the College of St. Joseph and other community folks are hard at work trying to raise the other half of the feasibility budget.
Okay. So are there any questions of President Scott at this time? And then if you so choose, a referral to committee would be appropriate. Alderman Gillum.
Move to refer to community development.
Second.
Any debate
Economic
on the motion to refer? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And also, Alderman Humphrey, is the chair, and we'll make sure she's aware of the referral, and she should be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next up is a special events permit request, winter in August, August 8th through the 13th, from 5 to 8 p.m. on Merchants Row. What is your pleasure? Alderman Mattis.
Motion to suspend the rules, take the matter up tonight.
Second.
All those in favor of suspending the rule, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Mattis.
The board approved the special event permit application for winter in August on August 13th from 5 to 8 on Merchants Row.
Second.
Any debate on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is a special events permit request, Walk to End Alzheimer's, September 7th, 2019, from 7 a.m. till noon in Main Street Park. Alderman Mattis.
Suspend the rules.
Second.
All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Mattis.
Move the board approve the special event permit application for the Walk to End Alzheimer's, Saturday, September 7th, from 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Second.
Any debate on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is special events permit, Stomping Out Stigma, for September 21st from 1 to 3 p.m. at Main Street Park. Alderman Mattis.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman Mattis.
The board approved the special event permit application for Stamping Out Stigma, September 21st from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Main Street Park.
Okay.
Second.
Is there any debate on that motion? Do we have anyone here from Turning Point Center? Good evening. Would you like to address the board for anything? Speak about the event?
I can say a little bit about
Sure.
it.
Yeah. I just need your name and address for the record, please.
So my name is Tanya Wright. I live right in Rutland. So I've been the administrative assistant of the Turning Point Center of Rutland for about the past 3 years. This event is something that I've really wanted to do and really felt passionate about since pretty much I started working there. And finally, we have the resources and the manpower to do it, so I'm very excited. Really, our hope for this event is just to bring the community together in a positive way and kind of celebrate people like myself who have kind of, turned things around, worked on making healthy choices, celebrate their success, bring family, friends into the situation, and just have a good time. There's going to be food. We're going to do a little walk. Ben Fuller will be performing for the second half of the event. It's all free of charge. I've sent out a registration for different organizations from the community who want to participate, to be there and just give information to people who may have people in their life who are struggling. It's going to be great, kid-friendly.
Great. Sounds like a great event. We have any questions for Tanya? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor of approving the Stomping Out Stigma, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next up is Art in the Park. We have Art in the Park August and October. Maybe we can slide them both in. Alderman Mattis.
No, that's all right.
Alderman Gillum, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yield to Alderman Mattis.
Shame on me, I didn't pick my head up.
I'll yield to her, that's fine.
Okay, Alderman
Move to
Mattis.
suspend the rules.
Second.
All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Go ahead.
Alderman Mattis.
I move the board approve the special event permit application for Art in the Park, August 10th and 11th, from 10 to 5 Saturday, 10 to 4 Sunday at Main Street Park. Can I do them both at once?
Yeah.
And also to approve Art in the Park, or the application for Art in the Park, October 12th and 13th, same hours, Saturday 10 to 5, Sunday 10 to 4, same place.
Second.
Any debate on that motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And then we have Tasso's use of a sidewalk. Do we have a, we don't have anything.
I just had the one copy.
Okay.
It came in very late.
Okay, so basically, can I just see that, Henry, and let them know?
For Friday Night Live.
So it's just outside seating, 3 tables, with chairs, outside on Center Street.
Did we suspend
So
the
it's
rules?
similar to just out front of the building.
Motion
like
to suspend the
Roots used to
rules.
do. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Alderman
Motion
Boyd.
to approve the outdoor seating on the dates that are listed that Henry, the clerk, has.
Do we have a second?
Point of order? Is this a liquor control item, or
No,
is
this
this
is just outdoor seating right
outdoor
now.
seating only?
Right.
And we
He
still need to
has
do
an
a liquor.
outside consumption
We still need to
permit.
go in liquor control. Okay.
Right,
So let's
right.
do,
We have another one coming.
thank you.
So we have the motion to approve Tasso's use of city sidewalk. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Alderman Gillum seconded that.
Alderman Gillum was the
Whether
second.
we liked it or not.
Okay, we need a motion to go into the Board of Control Commissioners.
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. First up is outside consumption permit, Tasso's, July 19th and 26th.
Move to approve.
Authorize the clerk to sign, please.
So the motion is to authorize the clerk to sign.
Authorize the clerk to sign.
Any debate on the motion to authorize the clerk to sign? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. The next is the outside consumption for the saloon, July 19th and 26th.
Motion to authorize the clerk to sign.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Is that for both dates?
That's for, looks like July 19th only for the saloon.
No, you got on the backside
Oh, I'm sorry, July 19th and July 26th.
for both.
From 4 to 11 PM. And we voted on that motion. And we have one more, outside consumption for Tasso's, I can't read your writing. Just,
That's the permanent seating that's
Oh.
on the table.
oh, okay. So this outside consumption permit goes to the seating that we just approved. Alderman Tomlin.
It's just looking over their outside, Tasso's outside consumption permit.
Sure.
And I was wondering if it would be possible that we could just make sure that we get the year on the outside consumption permit.
Yep. So we're asking the clerk to include the year of 2019
Yeah.
on the outside consumption permit for
So-
Tasso's.
just so
We
it's
can
not-
do that. Do we have a motion to approve that, Alderman Tomlin? Do we have a motion to approve the outside consumption permit?
Second.
Any debate on that?
We need the clerk to sign that.
We'll move to authorize the clerk to sign. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Is that it for that? Okay, so we need a motion to go out of the Board of Control Commission. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, we are under unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before the board? Seeing none, miscellaneous motions, resolutions, new business. Seeing none, so we're back up to setting the tax rate. Tax rate proposal for fiscal year 2020. Mary.
Okay, so you have my proposal, and I want to walk through a little bit of how we got here.
Please.
So my proposal that I have submitted is to, over the past 2 years, we've lowered that, what the board in 2010 had approved for the unassigned fund balance, what the target range was. In the last 2 years, we had been carrying it around 10%. The last 2 years, we brought it down to 9. This year, we ended up pretty well. We had a surplus, so I thought, you know what, let's take an opportunity to go back to the 10. So that is my proposal. That would leave $133,515 toward taxpayer relief. And we would see the tax rate going down. The example that I give is a homestead. So you have the homestead rate, education rate going down, and then the municipal rate going down. So in effect, for a $150,000 home, you would pay $13.66 less than over the last year.
So a savings of $13.66 yearly.
For the year, not for the quarter, right, correct. So that is my proposal. Holding that unassigned fund balance allows us to operate effectively without the need for short-term borrowing. And this year we had some big expenses we were able to absorb because we didn't meet our target budget. We had budgeted for healthcare increases and we didn't see those.
Correct.
So we had some savings and they offset some really big expenses. So that really helped us this year. I don't know if we're going to see that next year. So I thought this was an opportunity to get back to that 10% that we had. So having said that, I just want to go through, I included a copy of the board minutes, 2010, so you could see where we talk about it a lot. So just to revisit where that benchmark came from for the unassigned fund balance. So I included that. And then the proposal for the tax rate, just quickly, the total general fund appropriations are $22,306,000. That number, and I tried to give support for where that number comes from, what we need to raise in taxes. The 22 million includes the voter-approved budget from March and debt service and the voter-approved allocations for social agencies. So that's where we get what we need to our appropriations we need to cover. Then estimated revenues, you'll see I included, this estimated revenues is really kind of from all of the departments weigh in. What do we think our non-tax revenue is going to be next year? So that's how we get there. The mayor and I went over that schedule this morning to see, and you can see where we have had some big positives here. So going from 2.5 million last year budgeted, we're up to 2.7. We have increases in RME taxes. We have increases in one of the state pilot programs that we have increases in interest revenue, increases in the police department revenue, and as well as increases in the recreation department. So those things are helping to support the tax rate, and we don't have to raise that through taxes, so we have that. So we included that in the budget. So then, okay, so does anyone have questions on the revenue budget?
Do you have any questions?
Looking at it.
Have you had a chance to catch up? There is a sheet in your packet that shows the proposed revenues. I have a question, if I may.
Sure, yes.
Just, it looks like, well, maybe I read that wrong too. I was looking at the park fees, retail. Is that typical? It looks lower for rec.
It is lower, and I talked to Kim Peters about that, and that's Giorgetti, and use of the ice rink is down.
Okay.
Her contracted use of hours of use time at Giorgetti is down, so she projected lower revenues there.
So there's a lower number of scanners in the Raha program. So the number of hours that are being used up there at the rink are less than what's has in the previous years.
Okay.
So I think that's what's reflected in that.
Thank you. Anybody have a question? Okay, I think we're all set there, Mary.
Do you have something, Dave,
Sure.
on the revenues?
Yeah. No, well, not on
Okay.
revenue.
All right.
Let me just say one thing. First of all, I want to thank Mary for all the work that she's done. And, there's a lot lot of preparation that goes into preparing all these numbers here for us tonight in a relatively short period of time from July 1st. And there's been a tremendous amount of cooperation between her office and the administration, so I appreciate that. And I know she has, her proposal about the 10%. I'm going to, make a suggestion about leaving it at 9%. The board is ultimately will make that decision.
Yeah, okay, we'll keep on going
Keep
then.
on going.
Okay. So then, I just want to highlight some of the schedules of importance. This schedule here is where we're calculating the unassigned fund balance. This is where you only have 2 weeks to do this. So you really have to start projecting, what do you think the expenses are going to be? So I looked at, in coming up with the calculation, looked at last year's trend. I reached out to all the department heads. Do you have any larger expenses to come forward? So this is where we start accounting for those things. So I just want to go over. So we have estimated $128,000 in additional expenses for FY19. Those will go back. The transfer for bridge that we passed tonight of $60,000, $80,000 is really funding that buy app. And I believe this is the last funding year for that business incentive assistance program. So then next year, at the time that we're doing this, we're going to be looking at this in questioning whether that fund is going to go on and what's going to happen with the funds there. And then I also had identified a $15,000 equipment expense for PD that I have to move to the general fund. I've accounted for that. I estimate $75,000 in collection efforts in the revenue side and other grants. And Jeff Wennberg identified a $75,000 grant revenue that we should be getting in the next month, so we can allocate that. And then the transfer of revenue to the equipment replacement fund that you addressed earlier. That equipment replacement fund will continue to look at throughout this year because it's running at a deficit. The revenue there is not meeting the expenses, so we'll have to look at that a little more closely. So we come up with an adjusted unassigned fund balance, and then I have allocated a 10%, using the 10% calculation, giving $133,000 surplus, which is how I arrived at the decrease in the tax bill based on the 10%. I also kind of skipped past, but I wanted to point out the grand list.
Right.
Also, I got the grand list figures. Actually, the assessor was working with NEMRIC today on that and going through that, so we have a good number there. They made a few adjustments, and you can see that's up over last year's.
Right.
So that was good. So I'll point that out. And so on that spreadsheet where we're calculating the unassigned fund balance, I also provided to the right what would be the surplus if we applied at 9% like we have over the past 2 years. And you can see that would give you a surplus of $356,576. So my proposal is to go back to 10%, and but I did provide that for a 9%.
So what paper am I on seeing the
Oh, I'm sorry.
The 9%? Oh, okay.
Yep. If you go over sorry, I try to fit it all on one page.
Okay,
A
so
10%
this down here is at 9%.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of moved that over. So that gives you a little bit different scenario, and I'm sure that you are wondering what that will be, and I think I have that. So, yeah, I do. I have, so at 10% unassigned fund balance, you would see on a $150,000 home, a savings of $13.66 annualized. At 9%, the savings would be $46.59 annualized. And I also did a kind of meet in the middle, 9.5.
Right.
So the savings there would be $30.20.
Alderman DePoy.
So, Madam Chair and
Distinguished Alderman.
distinguished Alderman, Mary, I appreciate the numbers on that, and it's 223,000, I believe, and some change is the 1% that we're talking about. Right, that's the 1% going from 9 to 10. It's about
Yes, yeah,
293
yeah,
and change.
yes, yep.
Okay. So I'd like to, I don't know if, because we haven't made a motion to put this on the floor yet. as
We have
far
no
as-
motion to set the tax
Okay.
rate at
Yeah,
X
I know,
percent.
and so what I'd like to point out to the board is I'm in favor of going with the 9%. We've been operating that way for what, 9 years now? And I understand where Mary's coming from, and I heard Wendy all those years when she was talking about being at 10%, and I got you there. But when you're talking the difference of being able to give a $13 reduction as opposed to, you said $46 reduction
Correct,
to
yep.
people with $150,000 house. They're both worth their weight in gold, but there's just a lot more gold in $46. And so I would be in favor of going at 9% in the pool cash instead of giving that money back to the pooled cash fund. I'd rather give it back to the taxpayer.
Alderman Torrey?
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, can you give me 1 second?
Yield
And
the
if the treasurer could just give us the rate, you gave us the
Okay,
number?
yes, I didn't give you the rate,
We
yep.
just need the rate so the motion can be
Okay.
made.
I want
I'll
to.
give you the sheet.
Yeah,
And I yield back to the distinguished member from
Yeah.
Ingram.
Okay, let's debate and then we'll worry about the rate.
Okay.
Because I know the mayor wants to speak as well. Is that okay?
We need the rate to make a motion.
Well,
that's
I
all.
know, but, I know. Alderman Torrey.
To correct the record, we've been doing the 9% for 2 years. We started it when the previous administration's budget was up 6%. And we decided that with the education rate coming in, we could play a little game, drop it to 9%, and still give the taxpayers a reduction in taxes. That's when we did it 2 years ago. Last year, the budget, as we all know, was up, whatever the percentage was, 12%. And so that was not the time to move it back to 10%, because that would just raise more money on the taxpayers. I am in favor of the treasurer's proposal because it brings us back in line with the policy that this board set 9 years ago. It provides the appropriate working capital on the low end of what the agencies out there have recommended and what our auditor had recommended. If you remember, at least a year and two ago, our new auditor had recommended that we have enough in the bank to pay for expenses if we were not able to bring in property tax revenue. That seems a little high, but 10% I think is appropriate. It's a slippery slope to always be chasing that additional $25 a year. And so I would encourage this board to set the tax rate based on the treasurer's proposal of setting the working capital at 10%.
Mayor Lee.
So just a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is that over the last, as just been mentioned, a couple of years, property taxpayers have had to experience a considerable increase in their property taxes. And we have an opportunity here to give them some relief. The department heads and the administration have worked very hard all year round to control spending. I think they've done a fantastic job. We're very fortunate in increased revenues, and I think that that's a trend that we're hopefully going to see for at least the next year, because what I've been talking with everyone about at all the department heads meetings is to look at other opportunities to increase revenue in the various departments, and I know that the fire department is looking at that. I know the recreation department is looking at their revenues and trying to find a way to increase that, and I'm fairly confident that there is going to be at least some sort of a bump in those. So we're trending upward. 9% has been, as has been mentioned, has been what we've been using for the last 2 years. We have not, I believe, come close to having to go out for any short-term borrowing through some periods of time where we've had to come up with a considerable amount of money. And I bring up the idea of the payouts. I mean, that was an anomaly. The number of those payouts is a number that we're not going to experience, I don't think, for several years. So I'm comfortable at the 9%. I think the experience shows that we can provide some property tax relief here for city taxpayers. That's what I would recommend to the board.
Anyone else?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Alderman Dupore, you had a request for at least the motion of the calculation for the tax rate at 9%, correct?
I'd like to, I'd like to make a motion to set the tax rate based on the 9%, and whatever that rate is.
Okay.
If Mary has that for us, I'll include that as part of the motion.
Okay, the rate at 9%, the municipal tax rate would be 1.7543.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Is there any debate on the motion to set the municipal tax rate at 1.7543? Alderman Mattis.
I remember 2 years ago having the same discussion, and as I recall, we were bound and determined as a board to put that $200,000 back into the economy. But to second Alderman Nattori's point, you know, that was after some really large increases in the budget. And over the past year, I've been thinking a lot about that decision, especially when our treasurer, every time she speaks, says that she's concerned about that 9% figure. And I don't like the feeling of skating on thin ice. We got lucky, you know, with our healthcare budgeting. And I don't think we're always going to be so lucky. I support the treasurer's recommendation of a 10% unassigned fund balance that still does give a small amount of tax relief to the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Tamala?
I would agree with Alderman Mattis. I think 9% is irresponsible business. You have to have that. You have to have that cushion to get things done, and you have to have the security in case surprises happen. And I don't think the difference between 9 and 10 is going to be very appreciable in the tax bills. So I too hear the treasurer's concerns on a regular basis at meetings, saying we're walking the razor's edge, and I agree with Alderman Nattori. We've got to, you know, a policy was created. We got to stick to it.
Anyone else? Alderman Whitcomb.
I guess I'll just add that, you know, if not this year, then when? You know, we're in a pretty good spot right now. Yes, I would always like to return more money to the taxpayers, but I am in agreement with my colleagues here that we're in a good spot. We're still going to offer tax relief, but we're going to get back to that critical level of 10% and really be prepared for the worst case scenario should it emerge. You know, I definitely commend Mayor Allaire and the administration. I know he's worked incredibly hard with his department heads to find savings, to look for areas to increase revenue. I think that trend will continue. So as we go forward, we'll be back at 10%, and we'll continuously come back here for the opportunity to return a little bit more each time should things continue in the right direction. I'm not in favor of setting it at 10%.
Thank you. Alderman Nattori?
Just to echo something that Alderman Whitcomb just said, my train of thought left me, so I'll come back.
Okay. Anybody else? Alderman Dupore.
Well, I'd just like to point out that even giving the $230,000 back to the taxpayer, that still leaves us with over $2 million in pooled cash. That's over $2 million to pay the bills. That would take us for more than a month, and a month is really the target date that you need for your pooled cash. it's not a magic number of 10%, 9%, or it's how you get through the first month to pay your bills. And that is enough money to pay the bills at 9% and give some relief to the taxpayers that frankly need it. I mean, when you have a $150,000 house and you're paying, my iPad shut off, but I think it was $460,000 or it's
$4,800 with the education, correct.
with the
Yep.
education, that's an awful lot to pay for a $150,000 house. So even to give $46 back as opposed to $13, that's a $33 difference. Just want to make sure that we have the record straight on that. I think it's worth it. It's something that, you know, I think this community, if we could give a lot more back and still provide the services that we do, the education services that we do as well, then, you know, I know we would do that, but I don't think that $46 to the average household is, it's not a drop in the pan. It's money, you know, when you put it together cumulatively at $230,000, that's, as was pointed out, it's $230,000 that goes back into the community, goes back in the economy of the city, and that's real money.
Okay. Alderman Ettore, has your thought come back?
It did, thank you. The point that Alderman Wickham made is that we are still putting out there a tax reduction, right? This isn't deciding whether we're going to have a tax increase or a tax reduction. Right. This is a tax reduction. That's what's coming through. That's what we're going to be voting on tonight. This number, staying with the treasurer's proposal, allows us to also follow our own policies, which is also good governance. So I'd encourage you to do that. Second, one of the reasons that we came in here under or about even was because workers' comp, health insurances were all budgeted high because of the projections we have to do. Who's to say that that projection isn't going to go the other way on us in the next year? And then if we're at 9%, are we, you know, going to take some down off of that to make sure we don't impact the taxpayers too much? I think this is the responsible way to go. It still reduces taxes. It's the right move.
Alderman Tomlin.
I do understand and I do hear Alderman DePoy's point about, you know, is the 2 million, is it enough to get through the 30 days? Should something come up and, you know, maybe that's a conversation for in the future. You know, maybe we change it from, you know, a percentage to maybe changing it to an amount that gets us through a 30-day crisis. All right, but right now the policy is 10 to 15%, and I think we need to get back to that
Alderman Wickham.
within the window.
I'm sorry, Alderman Tomlin. Are you all set, Alderman Tomlin?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. Alderman Wickham.
Another point of consideration that I've been using is, you know, it's not just about like that we're following policy. It's not just about that we're planning for a catastrophe. That, you know, communities who set aside extra money in some whatever they refer to as their unassigned fund balance are planning for growth. Part of this is if people come into the area, then you have the money at your disposal as a municipality to increase services or do any kind of improvement projects that you need to also coincide with new people moving in. I mean, literally everyone and their brother in Rutland is working on bringing new people here. It's an amazing effort. And so part of my train of thought with this is really I believe that we're going to continue to go in the right direction. We may need that money for future investment if we start adding families at a rapid pace.
Anyone else? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to set the municipal tax rate at 1.75.43, which is a 9% unassigned fund balance. It was seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, so let's show of hands. Ayes and noes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, motion fails. I'll remind the board we have two scenarios. We have the 9.5 and we have the 10%. So, Alderman Mattis.
I would like to make a motion that the board set the tax rate to coincide with the 10% unassigned fund balance, which would be, what, Treasurer Markowski?
The 10%?
Yes.
The rate would be 1.7763.
So, which would be a rate of 1.7763.
Second.
Is there any debate on that motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of setting the municipal tax rate at 1.7763, which is 10% unassigned fund balance. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. 1, 2, 3 noes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion passes. We also have to set the education rate, correct?
I have those here.
Are they in anything you sent us, Mary?
Here.
Yeah, they were attached to the tax rate proposal. So the non-homestead education rate was 1.6033, and the homestead tax rate, 1.4577.
And both of those are a decrease from last year from the state, correct, Mary?
I thought, I was saying that it was a decrease, but I'm looking at it, and it is an increase on the non-residential, and I
So there-
apologize for that.
There is an increase on
In
the
the
non-residential
non-residential.
and a decrease
Yes.
on the homestead.
Yes.
Alderman Detour, you had your hand up? Oh, no.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman DePaul.
So the homestead goes from 1.4639 to 1.4577.
Correct.
And then the non-residential goes 1.5579 to 1.6033. That's a 5-cent increase on the non-residential. Mary, I know you're not in Montpelier and you don't set these, so what is your assessment of that?
I don't have an assessment.
Welcome to Vermont.
The state sets that based on the education rate. They look at the per pupil cost of the school, and, yeah, so that's set by the state, out of our control, really.
Alderman Gill?
I can make that clear. That non-residential rate is businesses, but it's also apartment houses here in Rutland. It's also, like my house is a split. I pay a non-residential and a residential on my unit. So that's not just hurting businesses, it's hurting the renters in the city of Rutland. But that's not our fault. That's the legislature, because they cherry-picked, if you want to call that. They cherry-picked just that non-resident and raised it up, thinking that the business people are going to pay for that. Well, guess what? The renters are paying for that too. So I think that's not good for Rutland, because we have a lot of renters here.
But I will
There's nothing we can do about it.
Just for the public, we are charged by charter to set the education tax rate. It is not set by the school board. It is set by the Board of Aldermen per charter, and we cannot manipulate these numbers. Just so we're aware. Okay. So the motion is to set the non-homestead tax rate at 1.6033 and the homestead tax rate at 1.4577. It has been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
How many do you have no? Motion carries. So, Mary, we just need to
We
set,
can say no.
we need to set the total tax rate, or are we all set? We need to set.
No.
Okay.
We
so
would see it separately, you'll see it
We'll see it
separately on your
separate on the
bills
bill.
this year, too.
All right, well, thank you very much
Okay,
for all your work. Is there
thank
any
you.
questions for Treasurer Markowski before she's excused?
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mary, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is, hold on, I gotta find my agenda here. I believe we're in executive session, that's the next up. So, Attorney Bloomer, if you could give us the motion for executive session and who is going to be joining us.
Sure. So the first motion would be to find that premature general public knowledge regarding pending litigation to which the city is a party would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the city's strategy in such pending litigation and will include confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the city.
So moved.
Second.
I want you to repeat that all back. No. Okay.
What's that?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
The second motion is to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the city attorney, police chief, treasurer, and mayor to discuss pending litigation as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1E and Title I, Section 313A1F.
So moved.
Second.
Any debate on that motion to enter executive session? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll just stand down for a few moments while we clear the room.